Good. Yeah, first of all, thanks for coming today. Now, I know this was short notice, but just going to read a few brief remarks here, and then we can open it up for questions. So appreciate everybody being here. Obviously, good afternoon. As you know, this morning, I informed head men's basketball coach Kenny Payne that he will not return as our head coach for the 24-25 season. As the director of athletics, I am ultimately responsible for all of our sports programs. I'm responsible for ensuring our student athletes, our staff, and our coaches are aligned to make this fan base proud. I have the responsibility of protecting the iconic Louisville men's basketball program and for ensuring that it is a major revenue driver for our department and our city. I hired Kenny 2 years ago with a firm belief that he could lead our storied program back to national prominence. I was also keenly aware that he was not stepping into an ideal situation. After an extremely difficult first season, I was hopeful I could see enough progress to warrant the opportunity for him to continue to lead this program for the years to come. Unfortunately, while there have been brief moments of progress, ultimately, I did not see the sustained progression I was looking for. In the end, while this decision was incredibly difficult to make because of who Kenny is and what he means to our university, I do feel it is the correct decision for this program and this department. I want to thank Kenny and his family for pouring their hearts into Louisville. We wish them well as Kenny's coaching career will undoubtedly continue elsewhere. As a search for a new head coach will begin immediately, I do not have a timetable for when a hire will be made. While I am cognizant of the realities of the transfer portal and shaping rosters, we need to get this hire right. And we will leave no stone unturned in our search. We have a lot to be proud of here at U of L, an incredibly rich basketball tradition, world-class facilities, unrivaled fan and donor support, and a strong commitment to winning conference and national championships. I have no doubt that we will find the right coach to bring this storied program back to national prominence. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Josh, we know the buyout drops $2 million on April 1st. How do you get it? Is that something to negotiate around? Do you pay him $2 million more to fire him today?
Yeah, I've been very committed to making sure that Kenny was going to have 2 full years. And so I did not have any contact with his representation until after the end of the game last night. And so initiated those conversations last night. And Kenny and I had a conversation once he got back to Louisville, and we'll continue to work through those contract details. I don't have any more information for you than that right now.
Back in December, you said he'll be the coach going into the new year. If you were fully committed to him getting 2 full years, why wasn't it he'll be the coach to the end of the year then?
I think these situations are always fluid, and when I made those statements, I'm not sure I was quite there at that point, to be honest with you. And it was once we got through all of the noise around the Arkansas State game, and then obviously the Kentucky result, felt like that would have been an emotional decision, quite honestly. And as I've told, I think a handful of folks in this room, this is a highly emotional industry. I understand how fans feel and how people around the program feel, and it's my job to try to take the emotion out of those decisions. And so that's what I tried to do. And once I was able to take a step back and realize the runway that Kenny had been given, that would have been a year and a half. That would have been almost unprecedented. That's at that point I said, look, we're going to try really hard to get through this season. And that's what we did.
What was the team? I assume you met with the team. What was their reaction? What did you tell them? And now moving forward, you mentioned the transfer portal. It opens Monday. How do you, or who manages those guys now moving forward?
Yeah. So I'll provide, I think, a little more context of the morning. As opposed to just meeting with the student athletes. Met with Kenny, and then met with the basketball-specific staff, and then met with the support staff, and then met with student athletes from there. And my message to the student athletes was, you've got to do what's best for you, but please take your time and really sort through what's best for you. You know, have you enjoyed your time at Louisville? And I don't mean basketball. You know, try to take basketball out of it for a second. You know, have you enjoyed the university? Have you enjoyed the city? Have you enjoyed the accommodations and everything that we provide? You know, if that answer is yes, then be patient with us, and hopefully you're willing to have a conversation with whoever is going to lead this basketball program. You know, if you ask yourself those questions and the answer is no, then you've probably already made up your mind, and at that point, you know, have conversations with our compliance staff and whoever you need to you know, do what's best for you. You know, the last thing I tried to reiterate to them was just, in order to either stay here or transfer somebody somewhere else, you're going to need to take care of everything in the classroom. You know, don't limit your options because you didn't do something you were supposed to do here in March.
Josh, you talked about this being an emotional decision. What have your emotions been over the last 2-3 months?
Yeah, there's there's a lot of them. There's a lot of emotions there. You know, I hired Kenny, and you know, this idea that there was all this pressure put on me to hire Kenny. And look, was there a lot of people that reached out and said Kenny Payne should be our next basketball coach? Yeah, there was. But I never felt that, you know, I didn't have the ability to make that decision. And so I hired Kenny. And it doesn't matter if it's an entry-level position or a head basketball coach who's highly visible. You want people to be successful. And, you know, I think it's been hard to see, those successes over the last 2 years. And so obviously there was some real frustrations there. You know, there was frustrations in, you know, trying to look for solutions. You know, how can we try to get this thing better? You know, there was a lot of emotion there. You know, at the end of the day, yeah, I had those days and nights where I was just really upset because I want what's best for this basketball program. And then you couple that with, you know, you want what's best for somebody you hired. And, you know, those were not taking place. And, you know, at that point, like I said, I think I tried to take the emotion out of it and, you know, I think pretty analytically. And so, all right, we're going to try to remove the emotion out of this and try to find a path forward that's best for this program. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Given the size of the buyout, whatever you end up negotiating, and the buyouts that have been published about prospective coaching candidates, do you feel you have the ability to go out and hire a top flight coach, or are your hands tied financially?
Do we have the ability to hire a top flight coach? Absolutely. Am I going to make a rash decision where finances aren't taken into consideration? No. You know, if you look at some buyouts out there, I mean, they're north of $10 million. And when you start to do the analysis relative to the return of fans to this arena and some different things like that, you know, you're just trying to, I've kind of called it the value equation. You know, what makes sense here? And so do I think we're going to have the opportunity to hire an extremely good, successful coach? Absolutely. But I'm not going to do it at the detriment of the entire department.
Speaking of the value equation, how much money were you losing per home game not having fans in the stands, not having the concessions, things like that?
I haven't had a chance to really calculate it on a game-by-game basis. We've done it more on a year-over-year basis, and it's a significant number. I don't have that sheet in front of me, but as you can imagine, we've run that data, and because that's you know, that's one of the pieces that you look at relative to you know, what's the upside look like. And so, you know, we've looked at data all the way back from, you know, 12, 13, you know, call it the last 10, 12 years. And, you know, what did those trends look like and how much of it was associated with success, obviously. You know, I think that was hard to judge, obviously, because you had COVID in the middle of that. And so it's clear there's an impact. I don't have to tell anybody that based on what they saw at the arena. And the goal is to get it back to those highly successful years. And I think if we do that, those revenue numbers will be in line with that.
Josh, Kenny had the line last night with people jumping off the Titanic and how he felt there wasn't really enough buy-in around the program right now. In your opinion, what kind of was the buy-in like? And when you are bringing in this next head coach, do you feel like that's even going to be that hard to be able to get people to get in if you want to get the guy that you need?
Yeah, I think that's a really delicate balance because you have to create, whether you're a coach, a player, an athletic director, whatever it may be, you have to create that enthusiasm around the program for people to get on board, and that's been difficult over the last 2 years. When you look at the win-loss record, there's some different things out there that I think it's been hard for people to say, hey, I'm really invested in this program. You can use the old line, winning cures all. Unfortunately, we haven't won a whole lot, and I don't mean just the last 2 years, over the last handful of years, but we've also had some pretty significant issues. We'll just term them as that over the last handful of years around this program. And so while this is still one of the best jobs in the country, we've got to understand where we're at. We've got to build that momentum with the fan base. That's one of the pieces that's going to be critically important to me with whoever we hire, is they have the ability to create that connective tissue with our fan base. Our fan base is they're dying for this program to be successful. Absolutely dying for this program to be successful. And that will be a very, very direct question with whoever I'm looking at as far as filling this head coaching role. Can you manage the enormity of this position? Because it's big. It's really big, and there's a lot of complexities to it. It's a lot more than coaching basketball.
Along those lines, what are some of the qualities of, everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses as a coach, but what's a couple of qualities that you think you have to have for this job?
Yeah, I think one of the ones that's really important to me is that ability to create that connective tissue with the fans, with the media, with the players, everybody. They have to have the ability to do that. I do want somebody that's shown that they can build a program, and that, building a program doesn't mean winning a bunch of games. Sometimes they go hand in hand, sometimes they don't. But they have to have a proven track record of building a program. They've got to understand how to navigate the NIL landscape. That one's going to be extremely important. I think they have to show and communicate the ability to adapt with the ever-changing world of college athletics right now. This guardrails that we're operating under right now, they're going to be different a year from now. At the end of the day, one of the things that I think is more important than anything else, we've got to have somebody who is dying to coach this basketball program. I mean, they will crawl here to coach this basketball program because that's how much it means to them. I think we can sort that out through conversations as we begin the search here.
You said, I hired Kenny. So what did you think you were getting, and maybe where do you think you missed that it would end up like this?
Yeah, I think the thing that really stood out with me initially relative to Kenny was his ability to interact and connect with players, with student athletes. It was clear he had a proven track record of that. His ability to recruit, that was obviously, he has a proven track record of that. His connection to the university, I thought that was going to be a benefit. And then from there, you look at some areas that you missed on, and I think they were unknowns for a first-time head coach. Do they have the ability to put a staff together and understand your strengths and weaknesses and build put a staff around you that complements your strengths and weaknesses? I've used the term organizational leadership at times, and I think that's a skill that's you don't just wake up and have it. I'm a first-time athletic director. I struggle with it all the time. How do we manage a staff? How do we put staff in appropriate positions to be successful? How do we hold people accountable? How do we set expectations? All those things. And I think anybody who's led an organization or a group of people understands it's the hardest thing. As I say it all the time, the hardest thing about being a manager is managing people. And Kenny had never really been given that opportunity to manage a larger group of people. And I think there was times that it was difficult.
throughout throughout the season, social media plays a huge role in all this. And so to see the fans come out and the outcry that they had throughout the year, how much of an impact was that? Did you feel that, and did you notice Kenny feeling that as well?
I don't have any idea if Kenny felt it. I think on what are we, March 13th, 2024, if you say you don't look at social media, I'm going to have a hard time believing you. I can promise you, maybe you, Tim, maybe you don't look at it. People look at it. Our president, she had a really good line to me one day. She's like, social media is like graffiti. You're going to notice it, but it's up to you whether or not you want to react to it. And, I think you have to, in order to be in positions in the public eye, you have to take things with a grain of salt. I think if I took things as literally as my wife did, as she was thumbing through Twitter, I wouldn't be in a very good place. And you have to be strong in your beliefs and strong in your commitment to how you operate and how you do things. Did it impact my decision? It didn't impact my decision. But was I aware of how fans felt? Absolutely.
Josh, how hard is it to navigate a coaching search when a lot of the candidates that you probably have your eye on are currently coaching or in their jobs right now?
It's just one of the variables that you have to deal with, in any situation. What are the variables that you've got to work through? And that's one of them, and I'm not much different than any other AD out there who's looking for a basketball coach right now. So we'll navigate it. We'll find the opportunities where we need to have conversations, and confident that we do have a good plan in place to find the next basketball coach.
You mentioned, obviously, not making a rational decision in December, and then in your statement you talked about how it became clear that, you guys need to move on. I guess when did that kind of timeline play out, and when did you feel like, it was time to move on?
I think when you lose hope, at least for me, if I ever lose hope in this business, I probably don't want to be in this business. Literally last night, I caught myself getting really frustrated when there was a few open threes by the opposing team, because I was still cheering for our basketball team, and so it wasn't, hey, this was the date. It was just, I kept looking for hope. Is there something here? And there were a couple glimpses of that. You had the Miami game, you had the Florida State game, and it's like, hey, can this be sustained? Can we start to see some progression here? And then you take a look back and you reflect and say, hey, I just didn't see enough of that, and so we made the decision that we made.
Josh, I'm not sure if you would want to get into this or not, but you kind of alluded to having a coach deal with the media. Kenny had some moments in press conferences that I guess made its rounds. For you as the athletic director, when you heard some of those comments, did you cover your ears? Did you talk to Kenny about it, or did you not really give much thought about it?
No, I think I try to have a pretty good pulse on press conferences and remarks that are made publicly. And do I wish there were times things were said a little bit differently? I do. I'm sure Zach or Lottie, or as I get done with this interview, are probably going to tell me there's a few things I could have said a little bit differently or a little bit better. And so you try to have those conversations with any coach and say, hey, this is, let's critique this a little bit and see if we can do it a little bit better next time. And I thought those opportunities were provided. And so yeah, there was some frustration there.
Josh, two-part. You used the search firm last time. Will you do that this time, or have any plans to do that?
I don't plan to. No, I like I said, I feel confident in the plan that we've put together to attack this thing. So I think we can do it without the help of a search firm.
When you hired Kenny, you talked about the search firm, and you said you told Glenn not to bring any one candidate to you with, I'm not sure what word you used, lack of a better way, say baggage, the
Yeah.
NCAA background or other things. Is that still the case here? I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that are maybe either looking or names that have been dangled that do have something in their background.
Yeah, I think I typically have a high threshold from an integrity standpoint, but I think that threshold needs to be elevated based on the past that we've experienced here. And so I don't want to look at just the candidate. I think it's the combination of our history to say, hey, is there anybody that is worth looking at, and what does that, what does their past look like? So, never say never, but I think most of the people in this room understand my expectations around this athletic department and the people that work in this athletic department, and so that'll be weighed as we go through this process.
Kind of bouncing off that, when you go with that and talk about kind of the enormity of this program and maybe wanting a coach with a little bit more experience, what are some of the basic qualifications that you might have for a candidate if this search is up to you?
Yeah, I think I hit that a little bit from the previous question there. Just the ability to show that they've built, that they've built a program, that they have, that they've seen some success, that they've been a head coach. I think that's almost certainly. Never say never, but I think it's going to be really hard to dip into somebody who hasn't been a head coach. It's all those things I talked about previously.
Speaking of social media, Ricky Jones earlier today tweeted that maybe Coach Kenny Payne will tell you all the truth about how crappy U of L handled him during his tenure after it's all over. Do you have any idea to what he's referring, and did Kenny make any complaints about the university's treatment of him?
I think we treated Kenny and our men's basketball program like we treat all of our programs. If that's not good enough, then, I need to know about that so that we can make it better. I felt like, am I going to say that every head coach at U of L has everything that they need or they want? No. If that was the case, my job would get a lot easier. Do I think that a large majority of what was needed was provided? Yeah, I think that, and I would contend that's the case for every sport that we have. This basketball program is the lifeblood of this athletic department, this university, and this city. And so to say that it's not going to be given the resources needed to be successful would be incorrect.
Along those lines, with the NIL situation, I know the numbers are probably not something everybody has track of, but where is this program in terms of like top 15, top 10, or can you put a quantifiable amount on the health of the NIL program?
I think that's so fluid, and it's probably not the answer you want. But I point to the success of our football program. In this day and age, student athletes aren't, most of the time they're not coming, because you said, hey, things are really good over here. It's a combination of things are really good over here, and the NIL support is there as well. And so, from a number standpoint, I don't have an answer for you. Am I confident that we can compete with the top programs in the country when it comes to NIL? I am.
With the changing landscape, do you foresee any changes in how maybe like the basketball administration is structured? We see general managers type positions at various schools, or different positions like that, or will that be something largely up to the next coach?
Yeah, I try to give our coaches the freedom to put their staffs how they want to, and so while there's always conversations that are had, it would absolutely be hey, I think this is what is best, and we'd have that conversation and make a decision. But there's a number of programs that are going that route, and I use the line all the time, evolve or die. And so, I think that would fall under that category, right? This isn't the traditional, the head coach, the assistant coach, the player, player personnel, player development, recruiting coordinator, those roles and those titles might be a little bit different as the landscape changes.
Kind of going back to the state of the program, Kenny had talked about before he got here is broken to the point where he couldn't really coach basketball in his first year, and kind of mentioned that too. I guess from a comprehensive standpoint, do you feel like progress has been made in the program over the last 2 years?
I do. Kenny didn't come in here with a clean slate. I understand that. There was, and Chris didn't either. And so for the first time in a number of years, whoever the head coach is that comes in here, I would presume, and that's what I'm going to sell, is coming in here to a program that can immediately be successful. And I couldn't have said that to Chris, and I couldn't have said that to Kenny. because I go back. I've said this countless times. The impact that the NCAA, the potential NCAA sanctions had, I think at times are underestimated. They were significant just because. Once again, I say this all the time too. What's the one thing that makes NCAA basketball different and in a lot of respects better than every sport out there? It's March. It's the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament. Like, that's what makes this sport special. That's what separates this sport. And anybody that Chris was recruiting or Kenny was recruiting there for a year, they were being told, if you go to Louisville, you don't get to, you will have no chance to compete in the NCAA tournament. And there's a lot of student athletes. That's what they want. They want that moment.
Just talking about expectations, Kenny had mentioned that he was okay with having a winning program in 3 to 4 years. So obviously out after 2. Well, what is the expectation for the new coach that comes in? Should they win immediately? What does that look like?
I am. I don't want to say hesitant. I never say, hey, there's a threshold here that we're going to have to meet relative to the win-loss column. The one thing I think I would tell you is there's a handful of programs around this country that you don't truly have the luxury of time. There's a lot of programs that you can say, hey, we're going to be okay here. We've made some progress. Let's give this thing another go next year. Because the impact on the revenue to the athletic department from an upside downside standpoint isn't as significant as it is here. These are 7 and 8 figure calculations when it comes to the success of this program, and the head coach coming in here needs to understand that in order for this athletic department to be healthy, this basketball program has to be successful.
In terms of hiring a coach who's dying to be here, for you, how important is that candidate, that choice, in terms of really trying to be or wanting to be community or engaged in the community? I mean, how do you impress that upon that choice?
Just through conversations, right? And if you look at, I think the coaches that have, I'd call it a proven track record of really being involved in the community. It's not, we're creating special events or they're creating special events for them to be involved in. Look at Dan McDonnell, look at Jeff Walls, look at Jeff Brom. They are present in the community. They show up at events. They are out and about in the city of Louisville. And it's clear to me, it wasn't as clear, since I've been in this role, how important that is. It's not, hey, let's do this, thing where the coach is going to speak and this, all this pomp and circumstance. It's like, no, they showed up at this event or that game, and that it's. I'm surprised at how much that means to this community, and I don't know why I'm surprised, but it really means something. It really, really means something to this community to be able to have, for me, it's the ability to have a conversation with somebody who says, hey, can I have 2 minutes of your time? Hey, I'm in the grocery store, I'm at the gas station, whatever it may be, and the coach is going to say, yeah, I'll chat with you for a couple minutes, like they're a normal person. And that's not pointing my finger at Kenny. I want you to understand that. But it's been clear to me with the coaches that have done that over a long period of time here. I know Jeff's only been here a year, but he's grown up in this community. He understands that, and it's important.
Josh, going back kind of to the decision not to have a search committee, is it just an internal discussion, or do you have some others some confidants that you will lean on to kind of help you guide or bounce things off of?
Okay, yeah. So clarify, we'll not hire a search firm. I will have, there will be a couple of people involved as far as just providing, I'd call it an advisory committee, providing guidance for me, just bouncing ideas off of them. It won't be very big. I'm guessing 2, maybe 3 people at most. but just providing a different perspective.
Who are those two people? Can you take us through your process of hiring a coach? Obviously, this one's different than the other coaches you would hire with what it means for the entire athletic program, but kind of the process. Do you start with a list that you've been honing over years? Is it?
Honing over years might be a little dramatic. But do you have a list for darn near every sport? You do. At least I think if you're doing your job, you do. And, is that list for this opportunity probably a little bit bigger than, say, the track coach that was just hired about a year ago? Yeah. And then to me, once again, I'll go back to, I'm pretty analytical and data-driven when it comes to making decisions. So really digging into, just their past, what have they accomplished, where have they been, all those things. You can find out a lot about people before you have that conversation. So, like I said, the analytical side, the data piece is one piece. The other piece is really diving into those individual conversations that you're going to have and say, hey, is this a good fit? Because whoever we hire, I want them to be here for 20 years. I don't look at this like it's a 5-year decision. I look at it like it's hopefully a 20, 25-year decision. So I guess if there's any coaches out there that are, in their 60s, 70s, you can probably scratch them off the list. I say that tongue in cheek. What's that? That's a good question. That's a good question. That's right. That's right. No, and that was really the message to the staff today. Is guys, this is all hands on deck to take care of these guys, and I know this is spring break, and we've got a handful of them, going back home doing some different things, and the season's over. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop taking care of the things that they need taken care of, whether it's mental health support, whether it's strength and conditioning, sports performance, whether it's the training room, academics, all of those things. It's going to be a team effort to get these guys through the semester here and find out who our next basketball coach is.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.